SIG meeting, fourth meeting? All right, fantastic. I think what we'll kind of do today is summarize where we are to this point and then figure out what our next action item or two is. We've got to, we've kind of boiled it down to over a half a dozen options on things we might pursue. Some of them would be at the local level in terms of things we can do. Obviously, property tax increase would be one. We are discussing a wheel tax option, which we might present to the full commission for discussion. There are things we can do that are going to require some effort with the state and industry. And when I mean the state, that's going to mean some amendments or changes to different tax, or not taxes, but Nick, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, the development tax laws, the private acts, right?
Relief Act.
Yes, those the way they're written right now have us at a standstill. So getting with our legislative body at the state to help amend or change or alter those are going to be one of the steps that we're going to have to do. And that's going to take some time. At our last full commission meeting, a resolution was brought to the table and voted unanimously to have regular meetings with our legislative body, more than just the typical January meeting that we have, but we've dedicated at least a quarterly meeting with our legislative body to help engage more to our wants and needs and have them get a better understanding of the problems we're having with raising the finances that we need to help with this fast-growing county and the problems we have being a fast-growth county. So, and I know I was absent the last meeting, and I appreciate you all for filling in. There has been discussion with a Melissa Kelton at CTASC. She is doing some research for us, and we have invited her to a meeting. It'll be after the holidays. She took Doug Bodery's place. For those of you who know Doug was very instrumental and with CTASC in helping Rutherford County. Now he is with the school board, and Melissa has backfilled his position. And she seems to have some really good ideas and can point us in the right direction with some things that we can do from a state standpoint. So she's going to give us some guidance. So Phil, I'm going to throw it to you and let you talk about some of your conversations that you've had in my absence.
So, did talk to Melissa with CTAS, and she can't make it today, but she will be on board physically at one of our meetings, if not our next meeting, the one after. So she has in her possession the notes that we took from last session. We had 9 or 10 items that seemed to have some traction among this particular group, including a toll road. I left the toll road off. She has access to resources, attorneys, and other people across the state, so she has taken on the challenge of starting to present our ideas in front of her resources. Okay, so real estate transfer, transaction tax, increased will tax, increased property tax, lobby the state to redistribute sales tax, adequate facilities taxes, just as a real broad question, lobby state to raise or amend our development tax, stormwater fees. Mike came up, just is it a fee, is it something that can be earmarked for infrastructure, or is it can it just be used to specifically pay for your staff? There's some gray areas there. Does it become an impact fee, which is against the Powers Relief Act? Earmark rollback taxes and create assessment districts. So those are the 10 items that came out of this group. So I hesitate to even have a meeting today because I don't know that we can make progress, and we don't want to abuse anybody's time. That's our most precious resource. But ultimately, we decided to go ahead and meet. And if I may be so bold, there are a lot of items on here that are going to take a great deal of time. Nick has agreed to look at the legality or the avenues to address the Powers Relief Act. Am I saying the right term?
Yeah, I think so.
Powers Relief Act.
There are different avenues here to take, and I'm happy to try my best to expound on any of this list that you read.
Okay, all right, then that would be productive.
Sure.
I didn't want to put you on the spot unless you had some.
Just to everybody understand, these are complex issues. The county's been dealing with this type of thing for decades.
Right.
On what it can and can't do in regards to taxes and fees and however you want to call it, right? And Melissa might be able to provide some insight in your discussions with her at CTAS that would help further the discussion. Do you just want to start with the real estate tax?
I'm okay with that.
So there was concerns about the constitutionality of such a tax, and again, keeping in mind that this is all subject to further research and discussion. I'm not finding anything that outright says that a tax that is a double tax is per se unconstitutional. If the legislature itself gives the authority for local governments to institute taxation that results in a double tax, it's permissible. It's not an outright unconstitutionally prohibited. I mentioned in our last meeting or two, though, that when the idea started getting floated around to maybe lobby the state legislature to allow us to amend our private act to get rid of the development tax and supplant it with the real estate tax, you best be sure that the General Assembly is on board with that, because you don't want to get rid of your development tax and they say, well, we're not going to let you have the real estate tax, because then you're without the development tax as it is. But there's a secondary part to that as well, and that is if the General Assembly has in some way prohibited expressly local municipalities to pass a tax that it results in double taxation. And I don't think you can do it. And under the County Powers Relief Act, it specifically says in there that counties cannot pass real estate transfer taxes. It says it in the language of the code. And it says the same thing for adequate facilities tax, you can't do it. And real estate transfer tax, you can't do it. And impact fees, you can't do it. Unless there was a private act in place prior to the passage of the County Powers Relief Act. Now, we have that private act, we have a development tax. And as y'all have learned throughout this history, at the same time that the private act that we have in place was passed, there was attempts to pass an adequate facilities tax as well. But those, I can't find made any traction and approval from the county commission level. So at current, all we have is that development tax in a private act. Going to the point of the real estate transfer tax, I guess summarizing that, it looks like that would be prohibited explicitly by state law, because it's in the County Powers Relief Act. It says you can't have it. So if you're wanting to get that amended and have the state legislature allow either statewide for local governments to institute a real estate transfer tax, or just locally here in Rutherford County via an amendment to our private act, that'd be something you have to talk to the state, I think, about to see if they're on board with.
So lobby the state, real estate transfer fee, adequate facilities, and development tax. All that require lobbying the state.
Yes, and I think that there
Heavy push long term.
There are two avenues that you would be asking for. One is an amendment to the general law itself. So when we talk about general law, I mean like TCA, right? So TCA section whatever, you would want it amended to expressly provide X, Y, and Z. That's route one. Route two would be to amend our current private act, which is the development tax, to see if the General Assembly would allow us locally to do something different than what the general law already provides. So you're not amending it statewide for all the other counties, you're just amending it here locally. Now, if we're talking about amending the development tax private act to increase it or to adjust it for inflation, I think you go down that route of asking the General Assembly if they would be willing to accept an amendment of our private act. But you have to keep in mind that the County Powers Relief Act itself expressly states that you can't increase the development tax as provided in a private act that was passed prior to County Powers Relief Act. So the General Assembly has already said you can't do it. Now, if you can get them to agree to allow you to do it via a private act, that'd be something to lobby the state about.
We need to look at,
Yes,
we need to
Bubba.
look at what could be germane to Rutherford County, not have to worry about something statewide, correct?
That is essentially what a private act is.
Yeah.
It allows us to do something different than what's applicable to the rest of the other counties in Tennessee. There has to be a reasonable nexus, because you can get into constitutional concerns of why are we treating the citizens in one county different than the other county, but there might be justifiable reasons to do so, which is why all the time we have private acts that are particularized to the county in which is seeking their passage. But if it's going to expressly conflict with state law that's already in place, that's where you got to have that connect and maybe that discussion, I think, with the state as to whether they'd be willing to do that.
So we might put forth our effort with the private act that just affects Rutherford County alone.
That's one avenue, and the other avenue would be to seek an amendment generally
Yeah.
to the TCA itself that would be applicable to all counties or local governments. Basically, maybe ask to change the County Powers Relief Act to give some relief to a bunch of counties that might be burdened by it.
So that addresses bullet 1,
Question.
5, a few of them. Go ahead, please.
So would it be safe to say, from your legal opinion, that about the only thing you can really do at this point in time would be increase wheel tax, increase property tax, and possibly create assessment districts without legislative approval, amendments?
I got to be careful to confine anybody here to what we can and can't do in a box, because there's too many different factors.
Yeah. I just, you were saying real estate transfer tax is prohibited by the
That's
County
in
Powers Relief Act.
right. That's in the language of the act itself. It says local governments can institute a real estate transfer tax under the County Powers Relief Act.
Hang on, go ahead. Continue. I mean,
I was trying to listen, and I realized there's a lot of different variables to it, but I guess where I was trying to arrive at, without getting any type of private act, getting any type of legislative approval or agenda that go in there, whether it be to amend one section or to get a private act, what's within the county commission's bailiwick right now is that they can deal with the wheel tax, they can deal with the property tax. And I wasn't sure about I was trying to make notes here, amending or creating assessment districts.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's all they can do, but I can tell you that I think you can adjust your wheel tax. You can do that. There's a state statute that outlays that, and we have a private act here locally, so you could do that if you follow the provisions of the statute on how you go about that. And then the second one was property tax. You can certainly do that. I think you just did this past legislative session. And then anything dealing with our private act itself, I think you can ask for an amendment to that. Now, whether the General Assembly will pass that to send it back for ratification, I don't know. That kind of help?
Yeah, it did. I just,
There's one other thing that I know will have to go through the legislature, because it's basically statewide. The mineral severance tax is capped at 15 cents a ton right now.
what
And
tax is that?
The mineral severance, every ton of gravel and any kind of mineral that comes out of this county pays 15 cents a ton on it, and it's maxed out now. And there's only one other county that has it at 10 cents, but all the other counties, so that would have to be a statewide. But I mean,
TCA.
that has as much impact on the infrastructure as anything, because you can sit out here on Burnt Knob Road and you can see those 18-ton trucks going out there. I mean, it's just like a bunch of ants.
Mineral severance?
Severance tax. 15 cents a ton. Perry County's the only one that's got a 10 cent.
Okay.
It's on the ton.
So, and I just put that as number 11, to replace the toll road as a. Tim, you were going down a path that definitely needs to be on today's agenda, and that's categorizing, short-term, long-term, or, so before we come back to that, if I may, would you care, do you have any, would you be willing to share any thoughts on the assessment district? Is it too broad to share any thoughts?
I have not looked into that extensively. Yeah, and I'm happy if this committee wants me to, I'm happy to oblige and start looking into the ability of the county to implement special assessment districts and particularized parts of the county that would benefit from the road improvements that would inure from taxing that particular district.
Nexus.
I'm happy to look into that and report back when I can on it.
So let's please make, yes, we request that. Agreed, gentlemen?
Yeah,
And
but
we request that. Look.
do you deal with other counties, right, besides Rutherford?
In what
Well,
way?
in real estate
Oh, yeah,
development?
again, being involved with the Home Builders Association of Central Tennessee, as they're currently their chairman of the board of directors. And I'm involved with the Middle Tennessee Association of Realtors on their governmental affairs committees in both associations. Each of these associations represent, in one case, the realtors represent realtors from Rutherford County down to the Alabama line.
Yeah.
There's like 8 counties, I think, altogether. The Home Builders Association represents a similar footprint of 7 counties, count Rutherford, to the state line.
Okay. Well, some counties have special assessment districts, and some are under different acts than we are. Some had it in their, some are grandfathered in and are just tied to the development tax like we are. Do you have an opinion, or are you familiar enough with what other counties are doing, and are they successful, or can you talk good or bad about some of the things that are impacting the people you represent? Because just because we can do it, if it's not a good idea, then we may not want to implement it. I mean, I'd be happy to hear your opinion as to if it works or not, or how it can be altered to make it better.
Well, I think first of all, I would have to say I haven't spent the time
Yeah.
on the other counties.
Okay.
I got a regular job.
Yes, sir.
I got the other things I do
Yeah.
related to that. I can say that in particular, Bedford County, last year, their commission, there was, I think they're under the, I think that their particular, I think they have the adequate facilities tax in place. And with that particular tax, it's my understanding that there is certain restrictions to that. There's the growth of the county population. There's X number of percent given that growth, if it's there.
Right.
There's X number of percent that they can change it each year.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of ran a little roughshod over that. And when, it was found that what they're doing, they didn't qualify to raise as high as they were trying to raise that tax, they had to back off of it.
Yeah.
And that was last year. And yes, the realtors got involved in that.
Yeah. You said that was Bedford County?
Bedford County.
Okay.
And so,
Metro Nashville has something similar. I don't think they call it an assessment district, but they've got 2 different tax districts, and it's essentially the
yeah.
same thing.
They have
It's got-
urban services
they've
and general
got-
services.
Yes, that's right. And
urban
it's
and what, Tim?
Urban in general.
General?
That's
Yeah.
your base, that's your broader.
And so I think urban,
Assessment.
you get trash collection, you get street lights, and the sidewalks. And so there's an obvious benefit to the people that are paying that lift on their tax bill. So it's very similar. They call it a little something different. And it was set up, it wasn't set up as an assessment district. It was set up after the fact when they realized certain people were getting better benefits, I guess, is the way I
I think that's a
understand it.
rural and, or
Yeah.
suburban and urban.
And then, Spring Hill
Distinction.
has enacted a couple of these special assessment districts, but I think they were geared toward a private developer that was associated with a project. They were letting that private developer float bonds, and that particular development was repaying. I think is how those were set up. Y'all need to check that, because it could have been a public, but I'm fairly certain it was associated with a private project for public improvements. Whereas here, we're talking about public projects, public improvements. So,
And remind me, could we include schools in the assessment district? Or did we say that was,
I think that was one of the lead things that you can,
I mean, with 75% of our budget going towards schools, could that be something that we could assess? You know, if you've got 20 portables at a school right now and a new development wants to come online, that's definitely going to impact that school.
Well, we're trying to get that answer. So but we've discussed the school as the nexus, or the school as the boundary, or and then we obviously we got to get the school board in on this and then collaborate with them. But we're kind of going that direction. The school specific, I can use the word nexus again, it may provide the nexus for the public good. And you can point to the boundary being
Right. Well,
logical. Does that answer your?
Yeah, well, that's certain things that, you know, need to be assessed in that zone. I mean, if you're proposing a new development, that's going to greatly impact the roads, the water, the school system, I think that needs to be part of it.
I'm not sure that that's dedicated to a particular, say, in Murfreesboro, we just opened up Salem. Don't think you would, I don't know that would be creating one special school district for, say, Salem, that, that area.
Right.
Looks like in Tennessee, we've got the Franklin Special Schools District, Lebanon, Milan, Paris, Trenton, Huntington, Bradford. They all have special school districts.
Right.
But I don't think that
No, I was
isolates
thinking
one school.
lumping.
Is that what you're thinking?
No, sir. Lumping the evaluation of schools in the assessments of an area. I mean, if we're woefully
It's
overcrowded,
part of the evaluation.
part of the evaluation,
Yeah.
could we do that and create some kind of impact
Yeah.
fee or something for that? I mean, the school has, separate school zones already established, but they do change.
But then we get into back to the question that I got to see what's a real estate transaction adequate facilities tax is illegal without an amendment. So we got to be careful. The adequate facilities or school district, special assessment districts for schools. There's some. We're restricted in how we word it.
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. Could Nick evaluate that as well with the assessments?
I think looking into what a special assessment district is, that's the term I think everyone here is trying to use, is a special assessment district. Not an adequate facilities district, not necessarily a school district, but you picture the county as a square, and we're going to demarcate a smaller square within the county that for some reason needs additional public benefit by way of improved infrastructure to sustain the population growth that is within that particularized box. You would be creating that geographical boundary and taxing just those individuals within that box, because they would have the direct benefit of the public improvements being made. You wouldn't be taxing the entire county. That's what I think we're talking about there.
So we're going to pursue your aspect of that.
Yes.
Yes.
And in my opinion, that assessment would have a limitation on it. You figure out what it's going to cost, it's paid for, and then that's terminated.
Yes.
That assessment is terminated, has an end date on it. You don't just keep taxing those people forever.
which,
Yeah, which would ideally be associated with a bond life or a school or facility life somewhere, right?
I would think a bond life.
Yeah.
Is what, a project bond specifically.
If I may, I think Jeff Reed, me and him went extensively through some special assessment research, and he probably has a couple of attorneys that are very specialized in the names of some of those. Those might be worth the county talking to or hiring a consultant that deals in those that could relay that information.
That's an interesting.
Happy to talk to Jeff about it.
Okay, and, well, you may tag along, you're not calling traffic study, your state's about to
You're talking our.
major, what's
Yeah,
it?
well, transportation plan update, the comprehensive plan update.
Comprehensive plan. I just wonder if we could add a component of expertise, and that's interesting, Matt, that we may consider
Yeah.
hiring a consultant to. So right now, we have CTAS, it's going to kind of be our first resource
Sure.
in collaboration with Nick.
Let us know we're wanting to move quickly, and
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
private consultants and private entities
Okay,
can move
okay.
a little quicker than.
So you'll talk with Jeff?
I'm happy to do that,
Okay.
yeah.
Sheila, we kind of went around the room and talked about people's experiences in other counties. I know you've had a broader experience in engineering. You've been broader than a county. Have you ever witnessed in an assessment district, or it may not have been in your arena at all? Okay, I know you're with MTSU and,
in
Okay.
Crossville.
okay, but not a government.
I brought her for stormwater fees.
Hey, all right. Well, I knew I was putting her on the spot, but she's has a varied experience.
Yes.
You're always welcome to chime in if you have thoughts. Tim, you had gone down an avenue there that I think I'd like to go back to, that we talked about kind of what's long-term, and then there are some short-term things. And I just wonder what's the tone of this group for the short-term fixes that would not expire with the bond life, such as a wheel tax increase to keep some, to start putting some money in a bucket for, specifically for roadway and drainage infrastructure.
Yeah.
Do we discuss that? Tim brought up a great point a couple of weeks ago. We need to consider PR. We need to consider couching this appropriately, the optics of it all too. So I just kind of want to throw that on the table. Because we got a long-term plan. It's going to take. Let's say it's rolling.
Yeah.
We're seeking advice.
Well, and I think the answer is a multitude of solutions.
Correct. So
Yeah.
if we can transition to the short term and the things that we have control of.
Let's address the wheel tax,
Yeah.
because that's immediate we can do. Okay, out of the 95 counties, 36 counties do not have a wheel tax. And 30 of the counties have a wheel tax that's 50 or more. Okay, and 22 of them have a larger wheel tax now than what Rutherford County has. And it ranges from $60 to $110. And so I was, the information that I got here from the budget office is, which we can pass with 2/3 majority at 2 readings at the county commission immediately. And the last time this has been done was in 2000 at $20 increase. Okay, a $30 increase, that would make the wheel tax $82.50. A $30 increase would bring $7,410,000 a year. That could be designated specifically for infrastructure.
How much?
$7,410,000. That would equate to basically 28 cents a day will increase on the wheel tax.
28 cents a day to whom?
28 cents a day.
To the.
You say $30 increase?
$30 increase brings $7,410,000. Okay, that'd be a short term, and I don't have it at my fingertip now what the 15-cent mineral service tax brings in, but correct me if I'm wrong on this. On a 20-ton load of gravel at 10 cents a ton, would that be $2 a load? 20 ton for 10 cents. Would that be
I'm gonna
$2?
look at my engineer.
Would that be $2? Would that be $2 a load?
You said 20 tons at 10 cents a ton. That's, yeah.
Be $2?
Yes, sir.
All right.
$2, yeah.
All right, and I have no idea how much the minimum service tax brings in. It's in the budget, but I can't bring it out of my little finite mind. But that would be a long term that I don't know whether we could get it increased for Rutherford County alone or whether they'd have to go statewide. But I'm sure there's some of these other counties that could stand would be glad to get 10 cents more out of a ton of gravel or whatever minimum service tax. That could be a long-term thing. So that could be two immediate approaches that we could take. See if the legislature, our representatives would push the issue to get the whatever state law changed to increase that. Because I have no idea how long is 15 cents. I do know
With the severance tax.
basically about 20 years because I've been on the road board 19 and I don't know any change. I don't know when it was increased to 15 cents. But I mean that, and whether or not that could be designated for infrastructure, you know, because that is one, that has a huge impact. Like I said, you can watch those trucks from Hoover, or it's called Blue Water now. I mean, it's like a bunch of ants, you know. So,
Did you say the wheel tax was 2/3 vote?
yeah,
in
county
2
commission.
months?
Two
Two
readings.
Consecutive vote.
Two readings.
Two readings, yeah. And to,
We'll have the option to do that, Phil, or put it on the referendum.
yeah.
But it would be dead on the water on a referendum. But just like Mike brought up, a good selling point would be, and I read an article in the paper this morning, that it looks like the emissions thing's going to die to the wayside here shortly. I think Nashville's going to ask for an increase, or not an increase, or an amendment to allow it to continue on to 2022. But if the ruling on that, it needs to go into effect right now, that the counties are, emission control is in such good shape that it will die a slow death within a year and a half, something like that. So the point you brought up, Mike, is very good, that the $9 that you're paying for your emission test now, deduct that from that 30, you know, you're still, it's not such a whammy. And that $7,400,000, that's basically 7.5 cents on your property tax, because a penny brings in about $1 million, 900-something thousand dollars. So that could be addressed, you know, right shortly on the wheel tax.
And that to me is a true user tax. I mean,
It could be designated specifically
yeah,
for
for
infrastructure.
infrastructure.
And that would have no effect on the $11 million that the wheel tax is bringing in now for the school system,
Yeah.
the general fund, and the road board. So that would just be a separate pot of money.
Commissioners, sorry, may I interject real quick?
Please.
Just so you all are aware, and you may already be aware, we have a private act in Rutherford County for our wheel tax. So just building on what Commissioner Johnson said, he's correct in how we'd have to go about passing it, but you need to do it in tandem as an amendment. You do a resolution amending our private act in the various ways that you would want to amend it at the will of the county commission. And if that were to pass after the 2 readings, it would need to be sent up to the state legislature to approve and send back down here for ratification.
yeah.
As far as we know, can other private acts be amended by two-thirds
The
vote?
process that Mr. Johnson described is specifically spelled out in the statute. That's what it
For the
says
wheel- okay.
for the wheel tax.
Okay.
That's right.
And it can be specifically earmarked for infrastructure?
Yes.
I'm happy to look into that.
We think so.
Over the
That was
years,
my
it's been
question.
reallocated in many different ways, my understanding over the years. So much percentage here and so much percentage there. Assuming that we can do it, that would need to be part of the resolution amending it, and we'd have to recite the language in the private act to change the percentage breakdown of where the money's going.
Well, the breakdown now is 40% for the schools, 30% for the general fund,
Yeah, I haven't
and
pulled the most
30% for
recent
the highway department.
private act, but it says on CTAS's version of it, the way that they've got it as our latest is 2/5 is deposited in the cost debt service account to be used for the purpose of retiring principal and interest on those high school bonds authorized during calendar year 1970. And there's a whole bunch other, I'm not going to read all that. That may have changed since then, because I imagine that debt service is probably paid off. I think that was to build Riverdale
And Oakland.
maybe Oakland. And then 1/5 shall be deposited in the cost debt service to be used for the purpose of retiring principal and interest on those bonds authorized in 75. I don't know what that's to. 2/5 already is to be deposited, assuming that this is the latest version, in the highway department account to be used for the purpose of paving and resurfacing roads and construction of bridges. That's the language that they've got. But if y'all are interested in doing this, I need to see the most recent private act.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
then
old news.
$5 tax on motorcycles, and that's to be used to retire principal and interest on the 1975 bonds. Knowing that this could have already been amended since the 70s.
And my understanding is from talking to Lisa, she said that this could be set aside specifically for infrastructure.
Yeah, that's what I understand too.
We definitely want to answer that.
You had the same conversation?
Yeah.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to amend the private act to do that then, according to,
Well,
you know.
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to do it all, you're going to have to amend it if you're going to increase it anyway. And so you probably want to, and look at the history of this thing. It looks like there's been previous private acts where they've monkeyed with where the money's going.
Right.
So it's probably, past precedent is probably better to stick with.
And that tax was supposed to go away when schools were paid for, and it stayed, which is, makes us so
Have you ever-
untrustworthy.
Have you ever
So
seen
I want
one
to
go
make
away?
I want to make sure in these conversations, we're declaring that we're trying to keep a stream of income.
Right.
I wouldn't, unless we're bond specific on assessment districts or something, but
Well, I believe the wheel tax would be easier to sell for 7.5% increase on your property tax over a property tax increase, because look at the people that drive vehicles, you know? I mean, everybody, look how many vehicles are out here, and everybody, of course, people living in apartments, they're paying property tax. It's just not a property tax bill that they get, you know, but if there's any such thing as a fair tax, the wheel tax is, because if you're driving a Mercedes or if you're driving a 49 Ford, you're going to pay the same thing.
Yeah, both are turning up the road.
Yeah, and you know,
Yeah, all right.
so there's the short
That's a
term,
short-term fix.
we're gonna contemplate that. Us, and you're looking at three guys who aren't big tax people, but darn, we're talking about raising some funds, so.
Yeah, the other short-term fix is property tax, and we don't really want to go there.
And what was the third one?
I don't know that we had a third one on short-term.
Oh, we just have the
Assessment district, special district, yeah, and we're not sure of the legality of that as of yet. That's more to come.
but I discussed it around a little bit in the circle that I travel in about the wheel tax, and it's more palatable to the people that I've talked to.
Yeah.
But, you know, $30, I started at 25 now. Phil and I had a conversation, he's talking about how many million were you looking at that we would really need to be comfortable with?
Well, we have an obligation to come up with a scientific answer to that.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have our engineering world and our traffic study to help me come up to that. But I think we could easily, our roadways could easily utilize $10 or $12 million a year. If we save up a year or two, then we do a $20, $30 million project.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to have to raise somewhere around $15 million a year.
Yeah, that's a good average. I mean,
This is certainly gives some breathing room.
one school, Mr. Brooks is working on, one phase of that is touching $7 million.
Yeah.
So, and that's just for the elementary part.
Yeah.
So 15 is a fair number to be thinking about per annum.
Well, there's some more due diligence going to have to be done in selecting the sites for the schools.
Yeah.
I mean, $18,000 an acre out here may be a bargain, but when you got a pig trail to get to it, you're going to have to spend $22 million to get to it. You know, that's not a bargain.
Yeah.
You'd be better off paying $25,000 an acre for something that's accessible, you know?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Killing two stones with one bird, you know?
Well, to be productive here, let's. One thing that we were going to do here, y'all, is I'm not hearing the developing world contributing to this. And we're just taxing the citizens again. So I just want to keep on our agenda the fact that the constituency of the county is I think that algae been made there at the gates with the pitchforks, and the developers are the apparent cause of this. And I think it would only be appropriate that we continue to have a conversation of developer contribution overtly, and the only way that works is if developers are part of the conversation. We're in a holiday weekend, so we don't really have that group here. But I think pursuing some of the Private Act, Powers Relief Act avenues is a way to contemplate that. So when we are doing that. So just whatever it's
Yeah,
worth, I
yeah.
think it's important that we,
Well, I hate for it to be developers. It's the people moving in the houses that are creating the demand on the system, not the developer himself.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about with the assessment districts has the people that are putting the demand on the system paying for those uses, paying for those improvements. And yeah, it's over 15 years, or whatever you set your bond up for, or whatever that number is. The people taxing the system are paying for it, and the developer doesn't tax the system. And on top of that, whenever you plat a lot, if you've got an assessment district set up, that developer will pay the assessment district on his lots he plats. Those builders will pay the assessment district until they sell it and put that responsibility on the next body. They will be contributing like that. I would still say that I don't know whether this is going to replace the current development tax or if it's going to be in addition to. That's up for you guys. If it stays, then they're certainly still contributing upfront funds like that. They're also still doing offset, doing turn lanes and roadway improvements that are required for their projects. So they're still contributing.
And it's front loaded.
Yeah.
So you're charging them, they're having to come up with that money before they've collected the first dime. The developer spent all the money to develop the lots, paid these guys, everybody else, and they hadn't sold the first lot. Builder, same thing. They've got to pay for all of this stuff. They hadn't sold the first house. But we know, ultimately, I guess I say it's at a time when they got the least ability to pay these extra fees. When we all know that the end user, the homeowner, the home buyer, is going to pay more. They have to. And that keeps pushing the envelope as to what's affordable, what's not. We're a blue-collar community. We're not Williamson County. I don't want to be Williamson County, or Franklin for that matter. And with the community we have, there's just a certain level of affordability, and we keep pushing it. That's going to. If we keep doing that, it's going to slow growth down. That's true.
So-
it's also it's going to prevent people from having the American dream, more and more. And that's where the realtors come down, that's where home builders come down, because they're in favor of homeowners.
I'm glad that those comments made the minutes. I wanted,
Thanks, Matt.
we're going to have to, public relations demands that we articulate that as we discuss this, because I'm being the devil's advocate in my comments. If we say all you drivers that have 5 cars are going to pay $150 more per year to improve roads around a school because the developer built a subdivision. That's just the optics of it, so.
And
I
the
appreciate
developer
y'all's
built the
comments. I'm
lines
glad they're in the
because the
minutes.
school was there.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me, if
put
we
the
don't,
school,
we build,
developers, everybody's going to follow.
if we build projects because people are coming.
Yeah.
We don't build projects to bring people here, we'd all go broke.
It's not build of dreams.
Correct.
I know we've been talking about, a little bit about schools, maybe about roads, but let's not forget, I think Mike, or somebody brought up early on, the stormwater user fee for drainage improvements. So that's, for little or nothing, that generates quite a bit of money and lets the county take care of drainage improvements. I mean,
Where do you
that's-
envision that fee
Individual homeowners.
on the tax
It's a
bill?
monthly bill
Yeah,
or a
goes on your
tax
water
bill.
bill.
I
Okay,
mean,
okay.
the city, I think all of our cities have it, maybe not Eagleville. I don't know if Laverne has it. I know Smyrna and Murfreesboro have enacted it. And it's, Murfreesboro's what, 3 1/4 a month or something like that. I don't know what Smyrna's is off the top of my head. Metro Nashville has it, probably certain Franklin has it. So it's a fairly common fee. And really, the only thing you're doing is funding what the EPA said you have to do, and they didn't give you money to fund it. So,
It's on the
that's
list
TR.
to seek advice.
Yeah, and that could be used for quite a few things. I mean, some of these bridges that Greg has to wait for grants to replace that need to be, they're 1 lane through the low water crossing. I think that money can very easily be shown to go for that stormwater fee and make some good improvements there.
But some of it could fall under the adequate facilities. It could fall under some of this act that forbids us from having impact fees. So
Not necessarily.
I know that's not necessarily correct, so we're
It's a fee,
pursuing.
Maybe
and by
it's-
TCA, and you can help them with understanding that.
it's
Through
on our list.
TCA, it's a fee, it's not a tax. Now, I think our mechanism for doing it would have to go on the property tax bill, but it would be a fee. It would need to be shown up as a fee on the property tax bill, because that's our only mechanism for that charge. We don't have a water, a gas, or whatever. All the other counties, Shelby County and Hamilton County, and I think there's one other, that those are the only counties that have stormwater fees. Every other county that has them is a city or a town. There's only, I think, 2, maybe 3 counties that have it.
They're under
Because
a
they're all
charter.
kind of in the same thing as we are, like, how do we do this? What are we gonna put it under? And how do we charge it? Because we don't have a gas, a water, electric bill to add it as
Yeah.
a fee onto. So you have to figure out what that mechanism is. I kind of looked into CUD, but we have so many different water districts, so it was like with the CUD and Eagleville, and I don't know how many we have in the county.
So again, to me, you've got to, do you need to be taxing people that are inside the city? Do you need to be feeing the people
No.
inside the city?
No, I'm just talking
Because-
our district, like
Right.
just the county portion that's under our
Well, we
purview.
just have, I think in Rutherford County, we just have one water district that serves county residents.
Well,
No.
you get to the far reaches of the county, like get Clayville, Nolensville.
They have
Murray,
others, yeah.
So those are,
So that's what I was looking at,
So,
like,
yeah.
could we use CUD? Because what Shelby County did was they have Shelby County, I think it's gas, I want to say gas. And they put it on their gas bill, and they wrote a contract with Shelby County up to say, okay, you're gonna handle our billing, and we're gonna pay you so many cents a bill. And they handle the billing, and they just shove $700,000 into Shelby County's stormwater budget every year. When they kind of get that money every quarter, they'll send money over from I think it's the gas, Shelby County
I
Gas.
think
Does
that's
that sound right?
ours, is it Memphis? Like-
Memphis, I think.
Shelby,
Memphis Gas and Light.
Yeah.
so it's somebody else then that Shelby County, whoever Shelby County, but they just contracted them to do it. And so they do that, and then they just basically get the lump sums of money every quarter, and it goes to pay for that. What they did was a $2 flat rate for everybody. I don't really highly recommend that after I've looked at some other stuff. The city of Portland brings in, the small town of city of Portland, city though, and they do have their own like water and all the other stuff for that, and they tack it onto that bill. So they shut off their water services if they don't pay their stormwater fees.
Yeah.
So they bring in $700,000 a year for the city of Portland, and they have like 15,000 residents. But what they did was they charge $5, and they have incrementally go up based on your impervious area. So all these big companies that are coming in that have these 50,000 square foot buildings are getting charged like $2,600 a month. And then they also have options for reduction, but he says nobody's asking for the reductions, so they're all just paying it. And so this little town of Portland is just, their stormwater department is rocking and rolling with $700,000 a year. And it's like, what? But they went through it. They got their public hearings. They got their town involved. They got everybody on board. They talked to their commissioners. Like, no, everybody was kind of for it. And it passed through, and it's been like a super positive thing for them.
It's earmarked, or it has
Yeah,
some
now it's stormwater.
real clear.
Yeah, and you do it, it's clear. Like, you can use it for anything dealing with like water flow. Obviously, you know, like even when you're talking about certain, like your employee, what you're paying your employees, vehicles, our highway department, public works, all they do is pretty much drainage work in the roadway. I think they could be paid through that. So all that money you're taking out of like your general fund type areas or your highway department areas, you're no longer pulling that money out of those budgets. Those are funded positions. So that frees up money that you can use for other things that you need. So that's also something you can think about. It's not $7 million, you know, like,
No,
it's
yeah,
not getting you where you need. I don't
No,
mean
it
that.
helps. No, it's going to take all these buckets.
But if you have a little bucket funding the public works crew and then more money funding the big infrastructure projects, then all of a sudden Greg is funded. You know, you have somebody fund.
He's tied to certain things. He's getting his
Yeah.
money from gas tax, and
Right.
you know, certain percentages go to his public works and
Yeah.
his highways.
Well, that topic is on the list, and it is at CTAS, and it is on Nick's list.
A lot of the counties and different people, like they end up talking to CDM Smith or CEC, which you probably know those guys. They're a consultant firm. They've helped a lot of other municipalities get their stormwater fees. I talked to them last week. We had a big conference, so everybody's kind of talking about it. And I guess my question was, are you just kind of hesitant because of this Powers Act to make sure that it's just a fee and that we aren't doing something illegal, correct?
Correct.
And then the other part is, would you be hesitant for it to go on the tax bill because then it looks like we're upping property taxes? I guess those are two topics y'all would probably want to put on your tables as you're thinking about this.
Do we have another electric provider besides Middle Tennessee Electric?
Besides Murfreesboro,
Just MED and
MED.
they're going to have it all
MED
sent.
is fixing to go. Does NES serve any of the north side of the county? Do they get into Laverne at all?
I think some of DeKalb comes into
Yeah.
way up,
Electric?
Duck River.
yeah, some, it's not,
There's some
It's
Duck
Middle
River
Tennessee
somewhere. 'cause I
Electric.
used to live there.
there's some Duck River, okay, some Duck River. There's some little,
See, there's no one,
Yeah.
can't find one.
It's small.
Go back to
town.
the CUD, I mean, I live in the city of Murfreesboro,
Okay.
and I'm on CUD, and some of those other fees are on my water bill is
Right.
CUD.
Oh, yeah.
And then they pay that money back to the city of
That'll be on a
Murfreesboro.
future
Why
trip.
wouldn't,
Because the CUD doesn't serve everybody. That's
because it
why.
didn't serve
Fee could be on a
everybody.
future
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
You're saying, why couldn't we use CUD, or?
I guess I'm saying, why couldn't you co-op this with CUD, MTMC, so on and so on and so on?
I think we could.
I
I
mean,
think
not
it's gonna be
just
a little
one
more
provider, but then
complicated,
again-
but we could, yeah.
How do people that live out in the rural area on a well, How do you collect their fair share?
Shelby
I guess
County
we'll
says we just don't. And if they don't
Yeah.
have a water tap, then they just don't, or whatever it was, gas or water, whatever.
Yeah.
If it's water, Shelby County, I can't remember what it was. But if they don't have that, then they just don't worry about that $2.
That's why I think it's worth talking to Middle Tennessee Electric. I mean,
Almost everybody, well, you're
It's
still gonna
almost
have rural
all-
lots that don't have electricity. But
Really?
maybe.
who lives without electric?
No, I'm saying
Oh, there's people
undeveloped, undeveloped property.
Oh.
But everybody's got property tax bill. But on your electric and your water, you may not have a tap, you may not have electricity yet because it's rural. It's not developed, it's an undeveloped site.
Yeah. no.
If you
But
put
we
it-
don't worry about that $2 maybe, hey, or
Yeah,
$5.
if you put it on the tax bill,
Yeah.
let's say it's gonna be 36 bucks a year. If it was $3 a month for residential, it's gonna be 36 bucks a year.
Okay,
If we co-op with somebody, an electric company or whatever, we're gonna have to pay them so many cents
Yes,
per
you will.
bill, so we're just throwing money out the window. It adds up. So my preference would be just to put on the property tax as a fee, an extra fee.
you don't think that's would get,
That's what your special assessment's gonna look like.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna jump up and down anyway, but from a PR standpoint, you explain this is what this is for.
Okay.
And this is the only way to collect.
okay.
I'm just talking out loud. I'm
No,
I'm spitballing here.
that's what I'm curious as to what the hesitation has been.
Yeah. I
in
mean,
the past to
if it was neat and
fund
clean,
this.
where we had one service or could put it on a water bill or maybe a future trash bill, you could do it that way. But right now, we don't have
We don't.
that mechanism. But I've lobbied, you can talk to Mike, I've lobbied for a stormwater fee for multiple years, because we should be doing it. As much drainage issues as this
Yeah.
county has, it's cheap money.
We have the crew. The other thing, like the other small towns, like they didn't even have the public works crew in their town.
Yeah.
They had to hire the people, they had to buy the bobcats, the backhoes, the shovels. I mean,
Hamilton County's been doing it for decades,
yeah,
a stormwater fee. And they've been building multiple huge stormwater piping projects across that county for years with the money they make in stormwater fees. And commercial properties pay more. And it's right, it's all based on impervious. If you have a big lot that's full of roof and asphalt, you pay more because the water can't percolate into the soil.
yeah. Carlton said he's got some that's like literally $2,600 a month, and they don't even blink,
Yeah,
which was very shocking to me.
yeah.
We've been an hour. Just want to point that out, so we need to
Okay.
start
Sum up.
wrapping.
All right.
And that, I just want to stress, that's on the list.
So let's
We
go.
want to, I'm glad you.
Let's
We
go
want
back.
action items
Let's go
into
back.
one.
Let's go back to that. The legality of a stormwater fee. We need to figure out where that is.
Yeah.
What that. How would we implement
Have you look into
if we
that.
so chose, on a county standpoint?
If we can, too.
Yeah.
Have you look into it.
Yeah, John Clarkson at MTask and their guys have been, helped all the other municipalities across the state of Tennessee, if you know those guys.
And if we need to invite somebody from CDM Smith or somebody to chat with us or go have lunch with them, you and I can do that, or whatever we need to do.
Okay.
Or you and Mike can do that
Yeah, I would like to understand the legality of it.
first.
I
Yeah,
think
let's
first and
let's
say,
get
yeah.
don't get the cart before
From
the
my
horse.
understanding, that it's been formed as a law that it is a fee and not a tax, but that's over my head, you know.
And I have a thought on it, but I haven't looked at it following this discussion, which I'd like to do. And Mike, I can get back to
Thank
you.
And if I need to chat with somebody at Hamilton County, I can do that.
That'd be helpful if you want to.
Okay.
Let me know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it's
the
Hamilton.
one point we're gonna
Metropolitan.
make is,
Yeah.
yeah, I know Hamilton County's a metro county.
Yeah.
That
A
might
big
be-
part of
the
this, I
rules
think,
might be a little
is there a
different.
difference by the fact that these are cities, municipalities, or chartered counties, as opposed to your typical county that we have here, and whether that matters, and it might matter.
Yeah, Shelby County is the only one I know that, and they did it a long time ago.
So that might matter.
I think the city of Chattanooga has their own stormwater fee. I think.
That's the city.
Yeah, cities
But so
can
does
do,
Hamilton
cities
County.
and
It's not
towns.
the cities and towns can do that.
Cities
but
and
it's the
towns can have
counties
whatever
that
they want.
are Restricted.
But I know Hamilton County has a stormwater fee.
Is it a-
How
I know that for a fact.
They're not metro.
Is it a metro county?
I thought Hampton was a metro.
I don't know. I'll find out. Okay.
I could be wrong.
Memphis Light, Gas and Water.
Is that who they're using?
Yes. That was bugging me.
I was like, who are they using? Yeah.
So
Okay.
to get
You got what you're saying.
Phil's comment about getting the development and real estate world back in the discussion, I think once, from a legal standpoint, and once we start having communication with our General Assembly and legislative body, that's going to draw them in automatically. Because, and I get the front-loaded versus end-loaded deal. That's kind of why I've always liked the real estate transfer fee. Maybe we don't call it that. Maybe we call it a new owner transfer fee.
Now, see the difference, that's one of the arguments of it. It's, you can talk about all these new people moving in.
Yeah,
Well, it's not, they don't move in and buy a brand new home.
yeah. Well,
They
yeah.
buy any home.
Right, and that's what
You
I
know,
would
so-
prefer it be for any
Transfer
home.
tax and transfer.
Whether it's old or new.
Everything.
Yeah,
Transfer.
whether it's old or new, they should,
Yeah.
I'm after that.
Yeah.
$5, I'm after that. And that way the developers wouldn't have to, they pay their development fee like they always do. And then if I'm buying a home from Phil, there's a transfer fee, or vice versa. But anyway, because I agree with, it's a little unfair to have a developer upfront all that money, and it may sit on that property for a year before he turns anything. I get that. So, all right, action items. Go ahead. You're the wizard at action items.
I think that, well, the first actions are to hear from our consultant, our legal advice. So 3 items for Nick: special assessment district, stormwater fee, and will tax.
Yeah.
What do you need on the wheel tax?
How fast we can do it.
I thought we needed a confirmation of a 2/3.
I'm pretty sure that.
Oh, you were going to look
the
at
Recent Powers Act,
You were going to see if you had the most recent.
or Private Act, I'm sorry, Private Act for
Oh,
real
sure, I
tax. Yeah.
Yeah, I might have to consult with the county clerk and stuff. But
Read the most recent amendments to the will
Sure.
tax.
but I think you'd have to, again, do it via resolution, passed on 2 separate readings, 2/3 vote, passage each time, and you want to frame it as an amendment to our current private act, which you might want to ask the mayor when that needs to get up to the General Assembly. If you're wanting to do it before the end of the legislative session, it might be before February.
And can we earmark it, was Sheila's question. Can we
When you
earmark?
say earmark, do you just mean specify the specific allocation of what pot the money goes
Yes,
into?
sir.
Yes.
This
I mean,
would be a
my
new
initial
pot.
inclination is to say that you can do that, because
Okay.
Commissioner Johnson probably remembers doing that a couple times over the years, changing it around.
So that was my reference to will
Okay.
tax. So Nick's going to take an action step. Nick's taking action. Melissa at CTAS is taking action. I think Public Works will discuss will tax.
Mhm.
Some body with motion, the power to motion and second and vote.
I think
needs
it
to
came
start.
from,
Or steering or,
in 2000, it came from budget.
okay.
Okay.
That's where it started.
You're on budget.
Yeah.
Are you on
Well,
budget?
I was on budget at that time, and no disrespect to anybody involved. Nobody had the intestinal fortitude to bring it up. I said, last year, bring it up.
Okay.
So,
Well, it would be
and
very
I wasn't the chairman, the vice chairman, either one. I was just number 7 of 7 committee.
There'll be a lot of resistance, so I don't know where the public relations goes with this. So, but those, I think we're taking those actions.
Do we need to look at anything about the mineral severance tax? Going through the legislation on that?
It needs to
We need
be
to-
added to Melissa's list and to Josh's list, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick's list, that's number 11.
Nick,
Minimum severance tax?
Mineral.
Mineral?
Like rocks
And
and
what's the second word?
severance.
Severance, SEVERANCE.
Happy to look into it. I'm not sure I'm going to have responses to y'all if you're setting a meeting in 2 weeks from now, because we're losing a week here with our Thanksgiving.
Sure.
But And by the way, as I've done that, sometimes I've just called you and I've called you. I'm happy to call you, but as I get the information, I'm happy to relay it to you so that y'all are
Okay,
informed.
and as streamlined as possible, if you, so that you're not
Come to your house,
redundantly.
sit down for some turkey dinner, we can talk special assessment.
Bill's on
You're all right.
the
I know he's got to have, you got 50 people coming over.
Right on.
So.
So those are action steps, and the next one is what can we utilize everybody's time respectfully? Do we need to meet again, and when?
Well, you'll need some time to understand the legal aspects we need before we can even sit down with any legislative body, right? So you tell me, Nick, do we need to not have do we need to have a December meeting? Should we?
If you all want to talk policy, I mean, if it's just for legal stuff, I mean, I'm your lawyer, so I can just talk to you individually. I mean, you all can't talk about it amongst yourselves, but
That's what I was asking.
I'm happy to pass along information to you all, and you don't have to meet again. I mean, I can't make the decision of what route you should go. I can just tell you whether it's legal to do so or not, and how to frame it.
You can share your information with all of us, though,
Sure
on an
can.
individual basis.
I can?
Okay. You got my email address?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tim, do you think we need to meet? We've been meeting every month.
Every other week.
Every
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
I think we've kind of maybe have progressed up to a point where we don't want to
Yeah,
come up here and just rattle.
I think, yeah. I
If you
think
need to set a meeting, you can always not set one now and then call one in December if there needs to be some sort of recommendation made by this body, or if there's other further discussion needs to be made, and as long as you give the notice or whatever, you can.
I'm almost going to say we skip December, and then we just gather information from our attorney. And, yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
The only, if you think about actions, legislative actions, those are the ones, they're going to go back in session, what, about the third week of January?
Yeah.
And I guess if you have a bill that you need to get into the hopper, that's
I think
that's
we
got to
missed
be
it.
filed fairly quickly thereafter.
I mean,
just think we
unless
missed-
you all want to try to push the wheel tax through, it needs 2 passages at 2 county commission meetings, so that would be December and January. I mean, it's y'all's call. I'll do whatever you want me to do,
Would they go?
but.
I don't think it's that
Private
early.
Merry
act.
Christmas.
Would a private act,
Chairman?
So if we, all right, based on that, if we miss this window, we'd have to wait another year?
It's a question for the mayor maybe, but the way I've always understood it is you need to get, I don't know what the cutoff date is, but I think that years past, it's always tried to get any private acts approved by January to get sent up there, I
and you can
think.
get caption bills.
But you just might want to ask the mayor. He was a senator for years. But this body can't do anything about the wheel tax anyway. You 3 here.
Right.
We could recommend that it go to budget.
One of you who's on budget could bring it up and it has to be on the
Public
agenda.
Works meets.
That agenda's going out today.
We meet next week.
Yeah, next week,
second.
December 3rd.
Tuesday. We meet Tuesday, and then budget meets the week prior to the county commission, so.
It's kind of fast.
Well, I guess then, we could always announce a December meeting. And then we could always have check with the office and see if we're actually going to have a meeting. If we need to cancel it. I mean, it'd be nice to push it.
I'm not willing to have set a meeting up today, that's all I know. I don't want to use their time without being productive, and I don't think we're
Well, the
prepared to be.
only thing that, well, yeah, because if we're only going to push a wheel tax.
It's committee level.
It is, there's no need to have, yeah. Let's skip
I just don't want
December.
to lose our momentum, though. But
Yeah, let's skip December, we'll reconvene in January. By that, you'll have plenty of feedback for us in terms of what's legal, what's not legal. And in the meantime, we can go ahead and push the wheel tax. Okay? Does that sound right?
We need some clarification on, I'm not familiar with anything other than what's in the rules and regulations and bylaws that we have with the county commission. Of course, I'm speaking from 2000. The only thing we did, we didn't have to go through anybody other than 2/3 majority on the resolution, reading them twice. Unless,
Yeah, I'm happy to look at it.
Yeah, there's some
I'm going to say that
amendments that
I've
have been
seen,
made.
since the 70s, there's a number of private acts that have gone through to amend our wheel tax private act. And I think there may have been one in 2000 that did as well.
Okay.
But I mean, it's,
Unbeknownst to us, there may have been a resolution that went to the state, it may have been
No.
a stamp, but it.
No, the resolution didn't go to the state. We passed it twice, and it was a done deal. I don't know whether Doug or any of y'all remember that or not. Do you remember it, Doug?
I remember, I was working at the city at the time,
Yeah.
but I remember it being raised,
Yeah.
but
I mean, I don't remember anything having to go through the state on it. Of course, like I said, it's been 19 years ago, too.
Well, that's part of our then
Our findings.
impending answers.
Yeah.
So no meeting, but it sounds like.
Is that, I mean, is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't know that we
I don't have one.
any new information for them.
You can always call one.
Don't want to waste time.
Right.
So now they
You want to
have
set a
to-
January date then?
What about January 7th? That's the first Tuesday of the month. That's plenty of time.
What day is it? What day?
7th would be the
On
first
what- on
Tuesday.
what day? Tuesday?
January 7th,
On
Tuesday the
Tuesday.
7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been
Tuesday,
doing.
just like you've been meeting.
We've been doing Thursdays.
Okay.
What do we?
And then do the Wednesdays.
And
And
that's-
the 12th, the 15th, the 29th, and the 26th.
We've been,
It's been every
Oh,
2 weeks.
that's the solid waste one, is Wednesday. Right.
I'm getting sick, I'm getting us sick.
Yeah.
We've been meeting on Tuesdays for this one, haven't we?
The solid waste won't work maybe again until,
But that's the
That's the
Wednesday,
18th.
that's the Wednesday one.
this
7th is a
today-
Tuesday?
This is Tuesday.
I know, but this is usually, I thought, was it not? No, solid waste is Wednesday.
We've been
And this is
Tuesdays.
Tuesday.
Let's,
I'm out of
Tuesday
town.
the 7th.
I'm out of town the 7th, I'm in Dallas. I mean, you,
The 7th, the 14th, or the 21st.
I can run the list. It's up to you all.
Tim, are you looking at the 17th, the 7th, the 14th, and 21st? Are those all Tuesdays?
Oh, yeah.
Can we do?
We've been third or fourth Tuesday. I don't know if we need to leave it at that.
You know, you just, that's
If we
going about
meet in January,
6
then we,
weeks out from now. I don't know, y'all may have like you said, you may have some other conflicts with other commission, committee meetings during that same time frame. I don't know about that, but that's y'all's deal.
During the days.
Just would give you a few weeks' time before legislature goes into session, if you've got something.
if we, let's see, you got a public works meeting, okay. We'd have to have something, as far as the minimum severance tax coming from public works through the commission for to be in the hopper sometime in January. You know, so that would be the only pushing thing now, would be, I know, from your information there that the private act or the state law would have to be changed
Tuesday.
for the minimum service tax, so
We're meeting
it'd
next week.
it'd have to start here for our legislative committee to be working on it. It'd have to be in the hopper sometime in January.
following you.
So we would, if we meet here, we have this.
If we pass a resolution urging them
Do we have this committee on?
to get that taken care of, to increase the service tax. That's my
gonna be productive.
Yeah.
feeble understanding.
That just means that we'll have to have a bunch of answers ready on
7th.
which way we can, I'll be out of town on the 7th, but doesn't mean you
Yeah.
can't have a meeting.
Let me see. We can meet on the 7th or the 14th if we think we'll have, and I think Tim's point is, it might be most strategic to meet before we get too far into January. I'd sure like for you to be here, though.
Then 14th would be the day.
Tuesday, the 14th at 11:30.
When's your public works?
My next one's this coming Tuesday,
And the 7th.
a week from today.
Oh, okay.
The next one's the 7th
Okay.
of January.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we're doing January 14th.
We're going to do January 14th is the next infrastructure committee meeting.
Well, you,
What do you think,
Nick, you
Tim?
could probably,
Is the 7th critical? Yeah.
Y'all been meeting on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
you could probably have some information on the minimum severance tax for him by the 7th of January, before his next public work could be put on the agenda for your 7th public works. And that way, we'd be able to maybe look at something on the full commission, the January meeting. I don't know, to get it in the hopper for the,
Could we do?
I'm not,
I need to start looking into it.
okay, I'm not rushing you, but by any means, but tomorrow be fine.
We could do,
Yesterday.
or we could do December.
That'd be good.
I have a public works meeting this coming Tuesday if you want to get it done then, and we'll do it in December.
I will do my best, guys. You might just put it on the agenda, and
Okay.
I will do my best.
Are you feeling the
So can we put the general
Yes, sir.
severance?
Give me some more hugs.
Possibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
We're going to put it as a possibility on Tuesday's agenda for public works.
The wheel tax is on it.
Yeah, put wheel tax on
And
it.
we'll take on it too. Okay.
If nothing else, I'll at least say what we're up to.
So I want it
We'll grease
just to come out of there to go to budget.
We'll grease the skins.
It's the third week of December.
Yeah, okay.
I've already seen that one, so you'll get a revision.
Sure, that's all
for
right.
it.
What else you got? Okay, thank you, everybody. Tim, thank you so much for your input. And Jay, thank you as a civilian. Thank you for coming. Matt, thank you for your input, as always. The rest of you county employees, thank you.
Yeah, the rest of us get back to work.